And damning if true, accusations against the Justice Department. IRS whistleblowers bullet point how they say the DOJ blocked the Hunter Biden investigation at every turn. Up next, we're going to talk about a whistleblower who accuses the Biden Justice Department of hamstringing its own Hunter Biden probe. His alleged proof is next. Did Hunter Biden get off easy? Republicans say a federal plea deal treated the president's son, with kid gloves. Now they're amplifying a far more serious accusation that the Justice Department obstructed its own investigation.
U.S. Attorney Weiss asked for a special counsel status, and Garland's Justice Department says no. If a special counsel is not warranted here, when is it?
They said that there was not independence in the Justice Department, with the President of the United States needs to respond to these assertions, these allegations.
The Justice Department simply has turned a blind eye to Hunter Biden. They were told to stand down.
The charge comes out of newly released testimony from two IRS whistleblowers. One, Gary Shapley, a 14-year IRS veteran, told the House committee that Maine Justice slow-walked the Biden probe at every turn. Here at the table to talk about that is CNN senior justice correspondent Evan Perez and CNN legal analyst Carrie Cardero. So, Evan, can you please put this in context? And as you do, I just want to put up on the screen for our viewers what the deal was from the U.S. Attorney in Delaware and Hunter Biden, misdemeanor tax crimes, avoids prosecution on gun charges, and then with this allegation from the IRS, the alleged IRS recommendation, I should say, felony tax evasion and filing false tax returns.
Right. Well, so the agents actually have paperwork. They have evidence, indicating that the IRS and they had the support of the prosecutors who were doing the case to bring 11 counts, including felonies for federal tax evasion, filing false tax returns going back to 2014. In the end, what they arrived at is 2 misdemeanor counts on for failing to file taxes for 2017 and 2018. And so the issue here that these agents are trying to draw attention to is that they say that there were things that were being done that blocked them from pursuing all avenues in this investigation. They say that David Weiss, the Trump appointee who ran this case, was not the final decider, despite what you've heard. And now the Justice Department says that's not true. And by the way, David Weiss himself, in a letter to Congress, says that's not true, that he was the final decider. And look, I think, Carrie can speak to this too, is that, it's not uncommon for agents to be like, we want to be more aggressive. Yeah. And for prosecutors to say, well, this is the better deal.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask you, is that, how many times as agencies, maybe even interagencies, right, are trying to figure out how to come down on charges against somebody, do they have disagreements along the way?
All the time. Yeah. All the time. This is part of the process. This is the way that it works.
And it's what we want.
It is not at all unusual. It is a normal course of business that you can have a circumstance where investigators, whether that's IRS investigators, whether that's FBI investigators, or any of the other law enforcement, federal law enforcement folks within the Justice Department agencies, where they are really invested in their case. They've been spending all their time in this case. They know the facts inside and out, and they're invested in seeing that case through. Right. And they might disagree with the line prosecutors, and the line prosecutors might disagree with senior officials at the Justice Department.
And so what we've been talking about is a DOJ problem, not a Hunter Biden problem per se. Right. Something that happened within the investigation. In addition to that, the whistleblowers produced what they say is a Hunter Biden WhatsApp message saying, I'm sitting here with my father, Joe Biden, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. I will make certain between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. That looks very damning. I should also note the date there, July 20th, 2017. And what Hunter Biden has said over and over again is that at that time, he had a very serious crack addiction.
He did have a very serious drug problem. And 2017 also matters because Joe Biden is no longer vice president. He's also not running. I mean, at this point,
Yeah.
it's believed that he is out of politics, right? Everything indicates he's done with politics. And so the question is, what does this mean really for, the Republican accusations that this means Joe Biden was corrupt? I don't think this proves that. However, listen, the president, Joe Biden, has repeatedly said, I've never spoken to my son about his business dealings. And so the question is, does this message show that Joe Biden was there? Was he actually sitting there? The agents, by the way, say they don't know. They don't know whether Joe Biden was actually there. But what they say is that they believe they were not permitted to fully explore this, to fully investigate all aspects of this. And this is where, of course, Republicans say, well, we'll do that.
Yeah. September 22nd, 2019, Joe Biden, I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. Okay, thank you so much for that.
I want to turn now to another high-profile investigation in the Hunter Biden tax probe. Two whistleblowers, Zach, have come forward under oath before lawmakers saying that IRS investigators recommended much stronger charges against Hunter Biden than what he got in his plea deal. Walk us through what these two whistleblowers are saying to lawmakers.
Yeah, these are whistleblowers who are effectively accusing the Justice Department of not telling the full truth about how this investigation into Hunter Biden unfolded. We know that from these whistleblowers, they're alleging that the IRS recommended and wanted more severe charges. They wanted 11 counts in total, including felony tax charges. Now, we know from the Justice Department this week, they announced a plea deal with Hunter Biden where it was only 2 counts against him and
Misdemeanors.
two misdemeanors, and he also got a gun charge that was put to the side, deferred. So, a big discrepancy there. And look, I mean, these are two whistleblowers who were saying that the IRS was really pushing for a stronger investigation into Hunter Biden. There was political pushback from the other side, is what they say, and they wanted to really string out and uncover everything they could, but they were not able to. That's their side of the story. The Justice Department says, look, we did the investigation the right way. We were not under any political influence, and the results were the plea deal that we announced this week.
Yeah, the Attorney General has said over and over again that this was an independent investigation. But Shan, on that note, one of the whistleblowers, Gary Shapley, apparently he took notes that he turned over to Congress where he says that the U.S. attorney overseeing the case, David Weiss, made claims about not being the, quote, deciding person over whether charges were filed. He apparently also wanted to pursue charges in other venues, and he requested to be named special counsel, but that was denied. Is there reason to doubt Shapley's testimony?
Probably not. I mean, they may have had conversations like that. I think the ultimate question is whether Weiss felt that he had the authority. He's a Trump appointee. A holdover Garland obviously made that calculation to look really hands-off, to let him stay on and do it. It wasn't a particularly speedy investigation either. It took quite a while. And those sorts of disagreements are pretty common between agents and prosecutors. Sometimes one side wants to be more aggressive, sometimes the other. So the fact that there's disagreement, not unusual. It's also a bit unrealistic for him to say the Justice Department hasn't been totally transparent about the whole investigation. That doesn't happen in criminal investigations. You basically just get the evidence, you get the result. And I think the key is whether Weiss felt any pressure, and at least what he's saying is absolutely not.
Yeah, of course, Weiss and the Attorney General's office have both come out and said Weiss was the final decider in this case. So.
And we're almost certain to hear House Republicans trying to question, at the very least, Weiss on those decisions. I do want to play for our viewers some video of Hunter Biden, who was invited to a reception at the White House last night for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. There are these messages, Shan, that Hunter Biden allegedly sent to a Chinese CEO in which he invokes his father multiple times. We should point out Joe Biden was out of office when these text messages were sent, but he says, quote, "I'm sitting here with my father and we would like to understand why the commitment has not been fulfilled." It sounds like he's asking for money. The whistleblowers, though, they're alleging that investigators weren't allowed to ask about Joe Biden when conducting interviews. How do you read that?
Well, even if that happened, I mean, the obvious question would be whether Joe Biden was there and whether he was part of this idea to put pressure on people. And then there's still a question of, is there something illegal about that? In terms of them not being allowed to pursue that, that's not uncommon, not just from prosecutors, but from supervisors. I've worked on cases where agents, even me, wanted to go a direction, and the FBI supervisor may say, no, we're not going there. It's discretionary. They feel it's a fishing expedition. So it's part of trying to stay focused on it, and it's a discretionary call.
And part of it was happening just before the 2020 election. To put that into context, remember what happened just before the 2016 election.
Exactly.
So they likely wanted even the potential argument that there was political interference was something that they were looking to avoid, right?
Yeah, and on that point, this idea that there should have been a special counsel appointed, I mean, frankly, I just think that's wrong. I mean, this is the relative, the son of the president. It's not the president himself or the official in office at that time. There's no reason that DOJ can't handle an investigation like that.
Plus, Republicans vowing to investigate Hunter Biden, deploying a new tactic in order to dig into his past. We'll tell you what they're doing. We want to turn now to another high-profile investigation, the Hunter Biden tax probe. We now know that 2 whistleblowers testify that the IRS recommended much stronger charges against Hunter than what he worked out in that DOJ plea deal. They say the IRS recommended felonies and more overall charges. These whistleblowers are now alleging the investigation faced political interference. CNN's Evan Perez has been tracking all of this for us. So, Evan, walk us through these whistleblower claims. What are they acknowledging? What are they saying?
Well, what they're saying is that the Justice Department has claimed all along that David Weiss, the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in Delaware, was in total control of this investigation, that there was no political officials who had any role in making any decisions. And what they're saying is that that is not true. And that one of the things that they pointed out is that they believe people up above were overruling the moves that investigators were trying to make. And one example, of course, is the idea that they thought that there should be 11 charges brought against Hunter Biden, including felonies. In the end, he's going to plead next week in court to 2 misdemeanors.